Hey there, future policymakers.
Yeah.
We're diving into a topic today that's, a major player in current affairs.
Mm-hmm.
One that could pop up in both your UPSC mains and prelims.
Right.
Women's access to public spaces in India.
Yeah.
Just think about it for a sec.
Okay.
You want to grab some groceries at the market?
Yeah.
Maybe meet a friend for a chai or just take a walk in the park.
Right.
Sounds pretty basic, right?
It does.
But for many Indian women, this isn't a given.
You're absolutely right.
It's an issue that often gets overlooked.
Yeah.
But has, serious consequences.
Mm.
And, as UPSC aspirants, it's not just about knowing the facts.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the why behind them.
Exactly.
Why is something as simple as accessing public spaces a challenge for a significant portion of the population?
You've hit the nail on the head there.
The Hindu article we're deep diving into today throws some pretty stark numbers at us.
Oh, really?
Only 54% of Indian women feel comfortable going to a market alone.
Wow.
Let that sink in for a second. We're in 2025.
Yeah.
And more than half of the women in India don't have that basic sense of freedom.
It's kind of shocking, isn't it?
So what's going on here?
Well, the article highlights a crucial point.
Okay.
India's ranking on the Women Peace and Security Index is pretty low. 128 out of 177 countries.
Okay.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, but how does that connect to public spaces?
Right.
But if you look closer,
Yeah.
you'll find that the index considers indicators like women's mobility and perceptions of safety,
Right.
both of which directly relate to their ability to access and navigate public spaces freely.
It's like a chain reaction, isn't it?
It is.
If you're constantly worried about your safety or feel restricted in your movements,
Yeah.
it's going to impact every aspect of your life.
Exactly.
You're right.
And that's where the concept of patriarchal norms comes in.
Okay.
Now, patriarchal norms might sound like a textbook term,
Sure.
but it's something you see playing out in everyday life.
Yeah.
It's that system where men hold more power and authority, and it often manifests in subtle ways that limit women's choices.
Interesting.
Think about it.
Okay.
Curfews for girls,
Mm-hmm.
restrictions on what they can wear,
Yeah.
the constant pressure to prioritize family over individual aspirations.
Right.
These are all examples of how patriarchal norms shape women's experiences, especially in public spaces.
So it's not just about physical barriers to access.
Right.
It's about the underlying social structures that make women feel unwelcome or unsafe in these spaces.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
And this limited access has some pretty far-reaching consequences,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you look at it from an economic perspective.
Right. The article mentions the low female labor force participation rate in India. Is that connected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
When women aren't able to move freely, their access to job opportunities shrinks.
I see.
Think about it.
Okay.
If a woman can't travel safely alone, she might be limited to jobs within walking distance or ones with timings that align with daylight hours. This lack of mobility also affects their social interactions,
Sure.
educational pursuits,
Yeah.
and ultimately their overall sense of freedom.
It's like this whole web of restrictions that ends up impacting their participation in every sphere of life.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the very real fear of violence that hangs over their heads.
Right.
The article talks about how women are constantly adapting their behavior to stay safe.
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Think about the mental and emotional toll it takes to constantly be on high alert, planning your every move around potential threats.
Right.
They might avoid certain routes, travel only in groups, or even dress in a way that attracts less attention, all just to feel a little safer.
It's like they're forced to navigate a minefield every time they step out in public.
Yeah. And sadly, even with all these precautions, there's no guarantee of safety.
It's true.
What's even worse is when society turns around and blames the victim instead of addressing the root cause.
Oh, gosh. I know.
You know, those questions like, what was she wearing or why was she out so late, completely miss the point.
It's that victim-blaming mentality that we need to break free from.
Absolutely. There's a line in the article that really struck me.
Okay.
The burden of safety is placed entirely on women, absolving men of responsibility.
Wow.
It highlights the deeply ingrained notion that women are somehow responsible for their own safety while men are let off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
This mindset needs a serious overhaul.
You're right. It's like saying you have the right to walk down the street,
Yeah.
but you're on your own if something happens.
Right.
It's just not acceptable.
No, it's not.
So what can be done about it? The problem is obviously complex,
Yeah.
but the article does hint at some solutions, right?
It does. It is complex, but the article does offer some potential pathways forward.
Okay.
For our UPSC aspirants, this is where the real analysis comes in.
Right.
The solutions aren't just about ticking boxes. It's about understanding the nuances, the interconnectedness, and the potential challenges in implementation.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Sure.
What are some of the key areas the article highlights?
Well, one of the first things it talks about is urban design.
Urban design.
Now, you might be thinking, what does urban planning have to do with women's safety?
Yeah.
But think about it.
Okay.
Well-lit streets, visible security cameras, public transportation that feels safe.
Right.
Even the presence of public restrooms can make a huge difference.
It's about creating an environment where women feel comfortable and confident moving around.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
If a woman feels vulnerable just walking down the street, it's going to restrict her movements and choices.
Yeah.
So urban planning needs to be more inclusive, considering the specific needs and concerns of women.
The article also mentions legal reforms, right?
It does?
What kind of changes are we talking about here?
Well, it points out that having laws on paper is one thing,
Yeah.
but ensuring their effective implementation is another.
Right.
For example, there are laws against sexual harassment, but how easily accessible are they to women?
Right.
How quickly are cases processed? What are the conviction rates? These are the kinds of questions UPSC aspirants should be asking.
So it's about strengthening the legal framework.
Yes.
Making sure there are real consequences for those who violate women's safety, and also ensuring that women have access to legal resources and support.
Precisely. And this ties into another important point the article makes,
Right.
raising public awareness.
Oh, yeah.
It's not enough to just have laws and infrastructure in place. We need to change attitudes and behaviors.
Right.
That means challenging those deep-rooted patriarchal norms we talked about earlier.
But how do we actually go about doing that? It feels
Yeah.
like such a massive task.
It is massive, but not impossible.
Okay.
The article suggests things like public awareness campaigns that challenge gender stereotypes,
Okay.
promote respectful behavior towards women, and educate men on the importance of consent.
Right.
It's about creating a cultural shift where these issues are openly discussed and addressed.
So it's about a multi-pronged approach,
Yeah.
tackling the problem from different angles. Urban planning, legal reforms, and public awareness campaigns.
Yes.
But there's also this emphasis on women reclaiming public spaces, right?
Right.
What does that mean in practical terms?
Think of it this way.
Okay.
For far too long, fear has dictated women's lives.
Right.
They've been told where they can go, when they can go, and how they should behave in public.
Yeah.
Reclaiming public spaces means breaking free from those constraints.
Oh.
It's about women feeling empowered to go out, enjoy themselves, participate in public life without having to constantly look over their shoulders.
It's about asserting their right to the city, to be present and active in public spaces without any restrictions.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual actions.
Okay.
The article also highlights the role of women's groups and organizations that are working to make public spaces safer and more inclusive.
Right.
They're organizing walks, protests, workshops,
Oh.
all with the aim of raising awareness and challenging the status quo.
So it's a collective effort, with women taking charge and demanding their right to the city, while also working with policymakers and urban planners to create more inclusive and welcoming spaces.
Right.
But, with all this talk about solutions,
Yeah.
it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
I can see that.
Where do we even begin?
That's a valid point.
Yeah,
The key is to remember that change doesn't happen overnight.
right.
It's a gradual process that requires sustained effort from individuals, communities, and institutions. But the article does offer a glimmer of hope.
Okay.
It says that even small actions can make a big difference.
So what kind of small actions are we talking about?
Well-
What can our listeners as future policymakers do to contribute to this change?
Well, for starters, it's about being aware of the issue,
Okay.
understanding the complexities, and being able to articulate it. For UPSC aspirants, that means going beyond the headlines and digging deeper.
Yeah.
Read reports, research papers, analyze government policies.
Right.
Equip yourselves with the knowledge to understand the problem and propose solutions.
So it's about taking that deep dive, connecting the dots between different aspects of the issue,
Yes.
and using your knowledge to advocate for change.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of your own voice.
I see.
Speak up against discriminatory practices, challenge gender stereotypes, and be an ally to women in your own circles.
It's about taking those small, everyday actions that can eventually lead to a larger societal shift.
You got it. Remember, the UPSC exam is not just about getting a job.
Right.
It's about shaping the future of the nation. And that future needs to be one where women can walk freely, participate fully, and live without fear.
I think that's a powerful message for our listeners to take away.
I agree.
It's not just about memorizing facts and figures for the exam.
All right.
It's about understanding the issues that impact real lives and using your knowledge to make a difference.
You said it.
What?
Now, before we wrap up, I want to emphasize one more point that the article touches upon.
Okay.
The importance of data and research.
Why is that particularly important in this context?
Well, you know how crucial data is for UPSC preparation.
Of course.
But when it comes to issues like women's safety data, plays a vital role in understanding the magnitude of the problem, identifying trends, and evaluating the effectiveness of policies.
Right.
The article mentions that there's still a lack of comprehensive data on violence against women in public spaces.
So how do we address that gap?
It requires a collaborative effort between researchers, policymakers, and civil society organizations.
I see.
We need to invest in better data collection methods, conduct more in-depth studies, and make that information readily available to the public.
So it's about using data not just to understand the problem, but also to inform solutions and track progress.
Exactly. And as future policymakers, you'll be in a position to influence those decisions.
Right.
Advocate for better data collection, support research initiatives, and use evidence-based approaches to tackle this complex issue.
That's a great point to emphasize. It's about going beyond gut feelings and using data to drive meaningful change.
Exactly.
It's amazing how much we've unpacked in this deep dive.
Yeah.
I know, right?
From the stark reality of women's limited access to public spaces
Yeah.
to the intricate web of social, economic, and even urban planning factors at play, it's clear this issue demands a multifaceted approach.
It does.
And for our UPSC aspirants, it's not just about understanding the problem.
Right.
It's about being equipped with the knowledge and insights to be part of the solution.
Absolutely. We've touched upon some crucial points today.
We have.
From the role of patriarchal norms
Mhm.
to the need for legal reforms and data-driven approaches.
Right.
Remember, this isn't just about memorizing facts for the exam. It's about developing a deep understanding of the challenges.
Right.
And being able to analyze and articulate potential solutions.
The Hindu article we've been discussing is a fantastic starting point.
It is.
But don't stop there.
No.
As you continue your UPSC preparation, keep digging deeper.
Yeah.
Explore other reports, research papers, case studies. The more perspectives you gather,
Right.
the richer your understanding will be.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of observation.
Okay.
Look around your own communities.
Yeah.
What are the challenges women face in accessing public spaces?
Right.
Are there any local initiatives or organizations working to address this issue?
Good point.
These real-world insights can add valuable depth to your understanding.
It's like connecting the dots between theory and practice,
Yeah,
seeing how these issues manifest in everyday life.
exactly.
And for our listeners who are eager to delve deeper,
Yeah,
we encourage you to leave your comments below.
please do.
What are your thoughts on this issue?
Wait.
What other aspects would you like us to explore?
Uh-huh.
We're always here to facilitate a deeper discussion.
Exactly. Your engagement helps us tailor these deep dives to your specific needs and ensures we're covering the aspects that matter most to you.
Right.
And while you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your fellow UPSC aspirants.
Yes, please do.
Let's spread awareness and foster a collective understanding of these crucial issues.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
If public spaces are a reflection of a society's values,
Yeah.
what kind of India do we want to create?
Right.
One where women feel safe, empowered, and free to participate fully in public life.
Absolutely.
That's the vision we need to strive towards.
It is.
And as future policymakers, you have the power to shape that reality.
Well said. Remember, the journey doesn't end with the UPSC exam. It begins there.
So true.
Equip yourselves with the knowledge, the critical thinking skills, and the empathy to create a more just and equitable society for all.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving for a better tomorrow.